Happy New Year and happy Victory Monday here on Locked On Jaguars. I'll tell you all about the efficiency of CJ Beathard and why Trevor watching him might actually help him out. We'll do it today here on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for joining me here on another edition of Locked On Jaguars. I am the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast, Tony Wiggins, and we thank you for joining us and making us your first listen because it's your team every day. A quick reminder, we're free to subscribe to on our YouTube page. That's right. Locked On Jaguars has a YouTube page, and we are free to subscribe to. All you got to do is go hit the like button, subscribe, and then hit that bell to make sure that you get notifications each and every time we drop an episode. And wherever you listen to podcasts, when you're riding around in your car, at work, whatever platform that is, make sure you check it out every single day. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code in all lower cases, LockedOnNFL, for a first deposit match up to $100. Shouting out to the everydayers. Happy New Year to you, and thank you for joining us and making yourself an everydayer. And if you're not an everydayer, you can be just by listening every day. All right, man, so we're going to go through it. The Jaguars get off the schneid, if you will, and get back to winning for the first time in 5 weeks. It's Victory Monday. They're victorious. They won 26-0 against the hapless Carolina Panthers, but it's still a professional game with a pro team, and we're not going to sit here and act like that we all bougie and we can't enjoy a victory by our Jacksonville Jaguars. It's an NFL game, and you can take it for what it is with a grain of salt. But for us, there's the cleanest game they played all year. We talk about them playing clean. We talk about all the time about what they have to do in order to be really, really successful on the field and show some consistency. And they did that yesterday, and you have to give them credit. Talk about CJ Beathard being very, very efficient in the first segment. Trevor Lawrence how him watching could possibly help him, and how something Cam Robinson did also. Really, really, normally you say you don't want it, but yesterday it was a good thing. And then the edge rushers have a day. It's like they played a game of meet me at the quarterback yesterday. So we will discuss that as well. CJ Beathard hadn't started a game in a few years. CJ Beathard came in for Trevor Lawrence, who was out due to being in the concussion protocol, and played very, very well yesterday. Scrambled around a little bit more than I thought he would. Did some really, really good things. Throwing the football, finding targets, hit a beautiful, beautiful deep ball to Jamal Agnew. That ended up resulting in them. I think they kicked a field goal on that drive. I don't think they even scored a touchdown on that drive. But still, all in all, a very good game. 17 out of 24, $178. No touchdowns, but no interceptions. They got the running game going with Travis Etienne, 16 carries for 102 yards with 2 touchdowns. Of course, he had the long 62-yard touchdown run, but it's the commitment to it. Even Tank Bigsby had 10 carries yesterday. They gave him more of a workload than Dearness Johnson. I wonder what that's all about, too. But in any event, they got the run game going yesterday. There was a commitment to the run. Even if you add in Matt Barkley's 3 carries and CJ Beathard's 3 carries, they still had 29 carries with the running backs. Evan Ingram had 6 more catches, went over 100 receptions for the entire year with 60 yards. Calvin Ridley was energetic and caught 4 passes for 39 yards. Had a better day, in my opinion, than those statistics seem to bear out. But I got a theory, and that theory is that they simplified things, right? They knew they weren't playing a real good team, and they were able to take over the game with their line of scrimmage. And it's been a long time. Some people say a long time coming since we were, we're going to have the chance and the opportunity to say that, and that is that the Jaguars turned to their line of scrimmage and said, take us home on the offensive line. And those guys were able to do that in the running game. They got some good players on that side of the ball, Carolina, with Brian Burns and, of course, Derek Brown, who got into it with Cam Robinson, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But a little Auburn, Alabama, right? Going back and forth right there. I wonder if that's what started it. I wonder if Cam said something like, y'all shouldn't be playing in a championship game because y'all beat us by luck. Or if Cam was told that by Derek Brown. I'll let the conspiracy theories fly on that one. But I think, even though we're going to talk about who was the player of the game yesterday, and that was Josh Allen, obviously. This is the third game where he's had more than 2.5 sacks. It's unreal. Trevon got another 2 sacks, so he has 9 for the year. I still think the player of the game, or the guy that we need to be talking about, is C.J. Beathard. I really do. I think he played well. For a guy who hadn't started a game in a few years, I think he did really, really good yesterday while he was subbing for Trevor Lawrence. Yeah, I really do. I think the kid played well. I thought the coaching staff absolutely simplified things, made easy throws on third down. So it's a combination of the offense works, right, albeit against the team that only won 2 games all year, right? We have to keep that in mind. But that it works when you don't try to force things, and it works when you just execute the plays as they come. And that's what happened yesterday. They weren't depending on the great individual performance from Trevor, the great talent from Trevor Lawrence. They didn't have it. So they had to rely on just running the offense. And I think there's some things that can be gleaned from that. I think the coaching staff probably learned that they need to continue to commit to the run, even if it's not working. You got to do it to stay honest and to be able to manage the game. The other thing is get the third down. How many times have we seen Trevor, and how many times have I said on this podcast that on 3rd and 3, why are you throwing the ball 20 yards down the field? Right? So you saw the efficiency. You saw the importance of keeping drives going. You saw the importance of taking the simple play and not trying to make too much happen. And I think that's what Trevor has to start doing to manage the game. And don't be upset when people say he's a game manager. Well, then good. He's a talented game manager. And there's nothing wrong with being a talented game manager. When people say that somebody's a game manager, it hints at, and this is why I said that Cam Newton kind of threw rocks and hit his hands. He was actually factually correct. And he told y'all that since then about what he said about Brock Purdy and other guys. I think that the thing is though, I think Cam knows that when he said that, people were going to assume that it meant that those guys didn't have talent. And that's the part, because he never said that. He came back and he said, look, that ain't what I said. I said this and I said this. I just think that there's always an assumption that when you call a guy a game manager, that means that he has to do that because he doesn't have the goods and can't make certain throws and can't do this and can't do that. But that's not the case with Trevor Lawrence. Maybe the case with C.J. Beathard a little bit, but he had a good result yesterday, and that's the beauty of it. Will Trevor Lawrence watching the action actually help him at some point? I don't want to make too much of it, but since I brought it up, yeah, I think at some point it can help Trevor Lawrence to sit back and just watch the action like it did yesterday. Take you away from it a little bit. Now you see, okay, well, I can do that same thing, and then sprinkle in the big throws, sprinkle in the things that you do that makes you very, very special. We'll talk about Trevor Lawrence watching and some of the other things that I believe he can learn and glean from him watching. We'll do that in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. I'll let you know about PrizePicks, man. PrizePicks is the absolute truth. And I'm telling you right now, man, if you are not playing PrizePicks, you are missing out, because it's the number one and largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. And they're also the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports, because it's just you against the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of players, including pros and sharks, You pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. I'm telling you, man, PrizePicks is the absolute truth. And you got to make sure that you get in on the action. Now, look, go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the Locked On NFL for a first deposit match up to $100. I'll say it again for you. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Get in on the action, man. Get started on PrizePicks. All right, rolling along here. Segment 2, Locked On Jaguars. Happy New Year. I'm glad it's a Victory Monday. I'm glad we started the year out on a good foot, right? And we're going to hope for some good things for the Jaguars. Now, we got the crossover this week with my man at Tic Tac Titans, Tyler Rowland from Locked On Titans. That'll be with you Thursday, of course. We're going to jug at each other and do what we do because we're rivals, but that's my brother from another mother. So look for that Thursday. The rest of this week, we're going to take a look at some season-ending awards, right? We'll do that on Friday. We'll give some rewards and talk about some New Year's resolutions on Tuesday. New Year's resolutions for the Jaguars on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, of course, take a look at the stories of the day, check on Trevor's health, see where he's going to be and how he's going to play, and then the health of everybody else too. Maybe even have a better update on Jamal Agnew. So we'll go through all of that this week. That's what you have to look forward to with Locked On Jaguars. But today, we're going to talk about Trevor Lawrence, who did not play yesterday, but he did stand and watch. And how does Trevor Lawrence standing and watching help him be better? Well, the thing that I hope it showed is that you don't have to, if you're Trevor, man, you don't have to try to save the world every single time you go out and line up a quarterback for the Jaguars. You just don't have to. You got to trust the system. You got to trust the team. You have to trust your teammates and trust the coaching staff. Take what's given to you. You don't have to be a hero. And yeah, that's where I think it is with him. I think he can watch, saw things get simplified. I think the coaching staff can absolutely help him with that a little bit. On the year, Trevor Lawrence has 3,700 yards, 3,736. So he'll need 264 yards to get to 4,000. If I have my druthers, he won't even make that number because unless somebody does a catch and run, I would prefer to have Trevor be a talented game manager next week and get the job done instead of trying to make all of those big throws. But he may get 4,000 yards. He'll probably go over 20 touchdowns. And hopefully he won't add to the 12 interceptions. I got to check and see how many fumbles he has, man. How many times has he fumbled the ball this year? But, yeah, that's the deal, man. And hopefully him sitting and watching and realizing that you can just keep things simple and you don't have to have the pressure on you to make all of these huge, big throws, these big arm throws. And there's absolutely nothing with somebody calling you a game manager. A talented game manager is fine. That's what Tom Brady was. He was a talented game manager. And guess what? He's the GOAT. Just like my shirt says, if you're watching on YouTube, the GOAT. He's the greatest ever. He's the greatest ever. Tom Brady. And he was a talented game manager is what he was, right? He could do anything that he wanted to do with his arm, but he mostly played with his brain and his technique and his pocket presence. And those are the things that sometimes if you're sitting there watching it like Trevor did yesterday, you can say, you know what, I can probably pull that off this way. And if there's anything that I wanted him to see is on 3rd and 3, get 3.5. You don't have to make the super throw in between a window 20 yards down the field, man. You have to just get the first downs. Just live to see another day. Protect the ball. Protect the ball. Go with the game plan. Don't change those plays. Run the plays that they sent in. Keep everything simple. Simplify it. We were having this discussion yesterday. Mainly it was about college football. But we were literally talking about me and a coach at a Power 5 school. We were talking about how teams that are really good at what they do, how they keep everything really, really simple. It's like you don't have to jump out the window with your play call and you don't have to dial everything up and you don't have They keep it really simple, man. They will run off tackle. They will throw a little waggle here or a drag route, a slant. They can just keep getting first downs over and over again. I think sometimes people see like Patrick Mahomes and they want to emulate that. They do it in every sport. Anytime you have something that comes along that's great, everybody wants to find them one, right? Everybody can't be Patrick Mahomes, and everybody damn sure can't be Lamar Jackson. You have to be yourself. But one of the things that you can rely on as a player, and this is what I hope Trevor learned watching yesterday, is just keep it simple. When you're good, you can keep it simple. Save the hard throw for when you need to make a hard throw. You don't have to do that all the time. I saw Jimmy Johnson get inducted yesterday in the Ring of Honor in Dallas, which is long overdue. And I thought about his teams. They kept it simple. In fact, when they first came to the league, Lawrence Taylor laughed at him. Lawrence Taylor said, I ain't seen this stuff since high school that they're running. It wasn't laughing no more 2 years later, because 2 years later, when they started getting it going, that high school stuff, that same old simple stuff, it worked, because guess what they were able to do? They were able to just move people out of the way. It's hard to keep it simple when you can't move people out of the way, but if yesterday was a little bit of hope for the future, it looks like that's what they did yesterday, and they gave it a good shot. So Trevor Lawrence, maybe he learned that from sitting there watching it yesterday. Maybe he trusts his teammates a little bit more. He doesn't have to do everything. Or maybe none of that is even relevant, but it's just, for me, it seems like for me, when I watch him play, sometimes I think he tries too hard. And as Doug Peterson says, he didn't necessarily say this about Trevor, but he said that it's something that teams shouldn't do and that guys shouldn't chase plays. And I believe it. And when he says that, the first person that I thought about is Trevor Lawrence. Tell you what else I think about. I think about Locked On, the fact that they've launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. All right, man, we're going to run it down a little bit and talk about the edge rushers. And normally when we talk about edge rushers around here, we talk about the fact that the Jaguars didn't add another edge rusher this past offseason. But that's not what we're hitting on today. What we're hitting on today is the fact that the two that they have had a day yesterday. Boy, did they have a day. That is Josh Allen and Travon Walker. We'll discuss them in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. All right, man, got to tell you about FanDuel. That's right, FanDuel. FanDuel is good old reliable. That's right. The NFL regular season is wrapping up, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. I'll say that again. New customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. This app is so easy to use, man. There's so many different ways to bet, like live same game parlays. Find bets in the new Explore tab. Make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, the best way to find popular parlays, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/locked-on and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official sports partner of the NFL. All right, you heard of this game called Meet Me at the Quarterback or Let's Meet at the Quarterback? I never heard of it either, but it seems like that's what I watched somebody invent yesterday when I watched the Jaguars play the Carolina Panthers, because Josh Allen had 3 sacks and his running mate on the opposite side of him, Travon Walker, had 2. That gives Josh Allen 16.5 for the season. That's a Jaguars record. It gives Travon 9 for the year. That's more than people thought he was capable of getting, right? He has doubled his sack total from last year. And I think they close the year out next week. I think they both end up in double digits. I think Travon's going to get another sack at least and have 10 for the year. And Josh may add to his totals that are probably going to lead to him getting some Defensive Player of the Year consideration. At the very least, he needs to be at least a first or second team All-Pro. So that'll bode well for him. But a lot of the talk has been about the fact that they need more edge and more pass rush. Well, guess what? I think they're the two best in the league when you combine them. I don't think there's another team in the league that has two guys that has more sacks than they do. 16.5 is a lot. 9 is a good number too. 9 is a very good number for Travon Walker. And I'm glad he did it because the night before, Aiden Hutchinson had a couple of sacks with the Dallas Cowboys, and I started to hear all those rumblings again about Aiden Hutchinson. But guess what? Yesterday, Josh Allen says, okay, if that's the number, I can reach that number. I'll get 2. And Travon Walker did it yesterday. So good for him. Good for him. Shout out to Miss Walker, Mr. Walker up in Georgia. I know they listen to the show all the time. Your boy had a date yesterday, right? And maybe can kill some of that noise because he does. Trayvon does so many things, man. He plays the run. He has the physicality. A lot of times he does a lot of things. He makes a lot of tackles downfield. And then the other thing that Trayvon really does too is he sets the edge and he forces things back inside a lot. Josh Allen has just had a monster year. Now watch them, if it's Trent Baalke still calling the shots, put a franchise tag on him and not pay him. At some point, man, if you have any integrity as an organization, you got to pay guys that perform the way Josh Allen has performed and what type of person and player he is in the community. When you have that whole package, it's like if you don't pay him, who do you pay? You know? And this is what draws the ire of players sometimes and even people in the community. It's like, okay, so what hasn't he proved to you? He's reliable. He shows up. It doesn't have a whole bunch of extracurricular stuff going on that keeps him away from the facility. That he's good. He's a good teammate. He's a good spokesman. He's a good guy. And I know I've been in the trade Josh Allen camp before, but that was a team building thing. It had nothing to do with him personally. It was just where the Jaguars were. And the only way I thought that they were going to be able to get beyond where they were or get to where we hope they're going is to look at their best assets and just load up. I thought what was going to happen is by the time that they got good, that Josh was going to be too old. That's what I thought. And then when they kept, it seems like how many times do players this good have to play through a fifth-year option and a franchise tag? Just how many? How many? Right? And he hasn't been tagged yet, but if they play that game with him and tag him instead of just giving him the big deal, the big dough, I think there are a lot of people that are going to be looking at the Jaguars funny. That's why, I hope they kind of move on from Trent Baalke and then somebody comes in here, man, and they just decide to just go ahead and pay him. Yeah, he is not the kind of guy that's going to get his money and start acting out. It's not going to happen. It's not. They need backups. I think hopefully that was the last game you'll see Caleb play here in Jacksonville. I watched him yesterday, and this is not me picking on Caleb, but someone told me, man, maybe what they're doing is trying to get a compensatory pick for him. I think it'll be like a 3rd round pick, probably in 2025 or something like that. It's not worth it to me to have a guy like that, even though he's a try-hard type guy. I see him get pushed around a lot. And then I saw him yesterday. Whenever he was in the game, they ran at him. They ran at him yesterday. It totally collapsed the side that he was on. Totally collapsed the side that he was on. And I knew he was in there. I didn't even know it was him at first. But when I looked up and I said, they replayed everything, and I was like, well, there it is. There it is right there. It's Caleb. That's why it was so easy to run that ball on that side. I'm not picking on him, I'm telling the truth. I want to see what Abdullah can do. Why haven't they played Abdullah yet? They probably know more than me, but I see the Yaya Diaby kid at Louisville playing, and I'm thinking Abdullah was better than him in college. How come they can get some play out of Diaby, but Abdullah can't get no love, right? I don't know, man. We'll just have to see what they decide to do depth-wise. But right now, those edge rushers are really, really playing well. And here's the thing about going out and get somebody else in the offseason. And this is something I think I told, I don't know who I told, somebody else in the media. I said, look, if they were going to add somebody, and people talk about Clowney, right? Well, Clowney wants to be paid a certain number, and that number is starter money. And I know that there was this sentiment, well, go ahead and move Trayvon inside because he's never going to be great. Well, now that you see that Trayvon is a 9 or a 10 sack guy, and I think he does this for the rest of his career, you understand why it's easy for people outside of the organization to say, well, just give Clowney the $9 or $10 million. Well, give this guy $9 or $10 million. And there were guys that they talked to that they told them that they were going to be rotational pieces. And those guys didn't want to do that because along with that title comes the money that matches it. And most of the dudes that everybody was talking about wanted more money than that. They wanted more money than that. Yeah. So, a lot of talk was about Josh Uche. I think that's how you say his name. And I'm going to see what he did. I'm going to pull up his stats real quick to see if those things add up. Let's see. Yeah, he's got 3 sacks this year. I think the clamoring for him and other players is just because everybody wanted to get away from Caleb. They wanted to get away from the depth that the Jaguars had. They said anything is better than that because coming into this season, that dude had like 2 sacks in 3 years. So he's played better, but make no mistake about it, that defense goes as Josh Allen and Travon Walker go. Make sure you guys check out Locked On Sports Today. That's right, man. The first ever 24/7 national sports streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. All right, man. You guys enjoy Family Day, whether you're watching parades on TV, getting ready for the college football playoff games that'll be on today, cooking some good food, whatever it is that you're doing, and this net is bothering me, whatever it is you're doing, make sure you do it with your family, do it with your loved ones, and get off to a real good start for this year. All right? All right, there you go. Until next time, I always say it, make sure you take care of each other. We'll see you here on Locked On Jaguars.